So welcome to our TechSoup event. This is TechSoup Connect for Ontario, and I am your local TechSoup Connect host here for Ontario. TechSoup is a program of, program of TechSoup. All right, TechSoup Connect is a program of TechSoup. We're okay. I think I need another coffee today. We're a global network of Tech for Good meetups, and we are a nonprofit that helps other nonprofits get, implement, and use technology effectively. So as I mentioned, I'm Sandra Amer. I'm a digital workplace expert, and I run All About Systems, where I help entrepreneurs and professionals work smarter within their digital workplace. I do a lot of one-on-one training with Google Workspace for different organizations and helping them set it up so that it works efficiently. But I also look at an entire digital workplace solutions and help everybody use all of their systems efficiently through automation and doing digital workplace assessments and providing recommendations and solutions for implementing those recommendations. I got involved with TechSoup because I also am involved with a nonprofit, the One Parent Families Association. It started off as a Toronto chapter. I learned about TechSoup while we were trying to set up our own systems, and saw that they were looking for a host for Toronto at the time. So I stepped up, and I've been helping them run these events to help bring technology to nonprofits so that you guys can better use technology to do good in the world. Some of our community values: we welcome everybody. We put community first. We're all about supporting each other. It'll be great once we can get back to in-person events, because I would really love to meet some of you in person. I know these events that we have are kind of fast and furious. We have our lunch and learns, and I haven't had much opportunity to really get to know anybody one-on-one, so hopefully we can help each other by building stronger nonprofits together once we can get out and see each other in person and participate together. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to use the chat throughout our event, or Omer, you let us know when we get to you if you prefer to hold questions till the end. And obviously, we always want to treat each other with kindness and respect. And if you are interested in hosting any events or becoming more involved with our Ontario chapter, please reach out to me or Eli at TechSoup and let us know. We're always looking for people to help out and people to present on interesting topics. In the new year, I know we have a few more sessions coming from Omer, and we have some other sessions coming from Trellis. I'll probably do a few events as well. I'd love to do kind of like a meet and greet, so if you guys are interested in that as well, please let me know. And a little bit about TechSoup, if you're not aware about them. They basically can help connect you to donated and discounted products. And if you haven't visited the TechSoup site yet, head on over there and see what you can get. These are a few of the examples of the products and services that they provide, and some really great discounts that you can get. This is just an idea of how much you can save as a nonprofit by using TechSoup versus going to a retail channel. TechSoup also has a forum at forums.techsoup.org. So if you do have any questions about anything technology related, it's a great place to get some answers to all sorts of questions that you might have, because you're likely not the only one having that problem. There's probably other people out there, and it's a great way to help each other as well. If you're looking for more events like this one, I run the events for the Ontario chapter, but a lot of our chapters are all over the world, and we're doing them globally now as well. So feel free to check out the website, and you should be able to find other events that you might like, and even if they're not from your country, and I'm not sure where everybody here is from today. I would expect we probably have some people that aren't necessarily from Ontario, and that's fine. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I will hand it over to you, Omer. And
Thank you.
I'll let you introduce yourself, but I just as a preamble, thank you for coming and talking to us. And I know
My pleasure.
there's been a lot of interest about your topic, so I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sandra. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you for the opportunity, TechSoup. So I'm a passionate researcher about nonprofit organizations. So I'm a retired Navy captain, but for the last 5 years, totally, and for the last 20 years, partially, I literally dedicated my research and my activities to the nonprofit sector. And I have good reasons for that. I try to contribute to the society through helping charities and nonprofit organizations. I founded Vectors Group 5 years ago as a social enterprise. It's a registered business, but we see ourselves as a social enterprise because we offer lots of free services to smaller charities and nonprofit organizations. I'm also the founder of Nonprofit Management Lab at University of Ottawa 3 years ago because I want to bridge between academia and the nonprofit sector. So I want researchers to develop practical, simple tools for the nonprofit organizations. And today I'm going to introduce one of them, a very practical tool. So imagine someone trying to eat spaghetti with bare hands, okay? So it's messy, and imagine that person has never seen a fork in her life, and one day somebody breaks a fork, and it's very simple, but it changes everything. So although everything that I'm going to introduce today is based on scientific research, but they are all simple because simplicity is the key for success in the nonprofit sector. So since I have limited time, please allow me to jump quickly to the presentation. So thanks to Sandra, and thanks to TechSoup, and thanks to everyone who made this possible. So let's start with a very simple question. Okay, what is strategy? And I use this analogy to explain it briefly. So I have 2 teenager sons, and when they drive the car, they don't have special long-term objectives. They just enjoy driving the car, okay? They pay attention to the traffic signs, they pay attention to the other drivers, and they enjoy driving the car, and it keeps them really busy. But they don't have long-term objectives. When my wife drives the car, she knows precisely where she's headed to. So driving a car randomly in the city is operations management. And knowing where you are headed to is strategic management. So operations and strategies are interrelated, interdependent, but there is a clear distinction. And maybe unfortunately, most of the nonprofit leaders, since they are too busy with the operations, they have limited time and capacity for strategic management. And this is understandable, but that's why we need to develop some simple tools to make their lives easier. So you must have heard this term, actionable strategies. Actually, we're not talking about strategic management. We are talking about actionable strategic management. We don't want to have another nice booklet on the shelf. We just want something that will really help us to have a safe and clear roadmap as a train, because we want to know where we are headed to. We don't want to be influenced by operational distractions. So 3 rules. The first one, it has to be measurable, and I explained briefly why it is important. The second one, it has to be manageable, and finally, it has to be efficient. So those are the requirements that we can expect from a strategic plan. So we developed this scientific framework. We call it ViSTA for a good reason. It stands for the initials of vision, strategies, and actions. And we suggest an alignment between strategies, visions, and actions. So it may sound easy or simple, but when you look at real life examples, you will see lots of cases where actions are not related to strategies and strategies are not related to vision, or vice versa. So the framework starts with strategic evaluation. It's even before strategic planning. Okay, before you decide where you want to go, you need to know where you are today. So we suggest to start with strategic evaluation. And the second phase is strategy development. Identifying the key strategies. It's basically the strategic planning phase. And once you have the plan, you need to have an operational plan for the implementation of the strategies. Okay, and finally, on top of that, we have the performance management, which basically means you need to go back to your evaluation, your plan, your operational plans, and make sure that you are on the right track. Checking continuously that you are on the right track. If we see traveling from Ottawa to Toronto as a strategic plan, on the way, you check your map, you check your site, you just try to make sure that you are on the right track. So every single effort that I mentioned so far should carry your vision, right? So this is the whole idea. You have a vision, and everything you do must support your vision. And everything we just mentioned is carried on your actions, your projects, and your operations. So you can only realize your strategies through your actions, your projects, and your operations. This is kind of a foundation for your strategic activities. And we cannot think about strategies independent from your structure and systems. So strategies, structures, and systems are like three pillars of your organization. So if you are planning to renew your strategy, you also need to renew your structure and you renew your system. At least make sure that they are aligned with your new strategy. And one component on the left side is the stakeholders. So stakeholders need to be managed. They are part of your strategic management process, and they can influence all of the layers. They can influence your strategic evaluation, strategic planning, implementation, performance management, even your actions or project operations at the bottom level. So they have to be managed too. Okay, so you know you have stakeholders, but unless you manage your stakeholders, you cannot make them part of your strategic plan. And finally, on the right side, we have the impact, right? So this is really what matters, but sometimes we can easily forget about it. While we are driving the car, we pay too much attention to other details. We can easily forget what really matters. And what really matters for nonprofit organizations is their impact. And I will briefly talk about that too. When we say impact, we mean individual level impact, target group level impact, and community level impact. I will briefly explain what I mean by this. So the tough question, why measurement? So why do we need to measure? So those are my two sons, and they're teenagers, and as you can imagine, it's a big challenge to communicate with them, but I try to. So when I say I want you to be a good student, I want them to have a strategy as a student. Okay, so I say I want you to be a good student, and both of them say that we are already good students. What makes you think that we are not good students? And the discussion starts. But when I say I want your average to be 85, suddenly the discussions are over. Okay, they say, oh, okay, our strategy is to increase our average to 85. Then we just go in, we continue with the conversation. What is your average score? Average now, and they say 75. Okay, this is your strategy for this year. Now look at the operational details. So what is your math score? What is your chemistry score? So we can plan resources. They have limited time and limited interest. So we can prioritize where they need to focus if we have the measurement. So let me give you some non-actionable strategy examples. Okay, so you might have seen similar sentences, build organizational capacity and strong governance. It's not much different than me telling my students, I want you to be a good student. And any single organization in any single nonprofit organization in the world can use the sentence. It's too generic. It doesn't tell anything. Communicate philanthropy's contribution to making a better world. This is another example from an existing strategic plan. This is not actionable too, right? So it's too broad. Everyone can interpret it differently. Building greater relevance or providing services that reflect effective resource use. So those are generic, too broad, but nice sentences that we can see in any strategic plan. But they're not actionable because they are too vague and too broad. So what does strategic plan look like? Let me share a very short video with you. So strategic plan is not a burden for your organization. It's an opportunity, and I will show you how it will look like if it works. Okay, so this is what we can expect from an effective, actionable strategic plan. Remove the barriers, make the life easier, help us to take the following steps, okay? And this is an exaggerated example, of course, but we can see similar cases in real life too. So now, so far it was conceptual. Now I want to introduce a couple of practical tools that you can use. So what do we mean by strategic evaluation? It's very subjective, but we have some tools or simple tools that you can use. And you can also develop your own tools. So it's not that difficult. The first tool is balance model. And balance model compares two dimensions, the scope of your services and the quality of your services. So if you are planning to have more facilities, more employees, more volunteers, more beneficiaries, everything that is already quantified falls under the scope, and everything that is not quantified yet falls under the quality, like the motivation of the employees, the public support, the satisfaction level of the beneficiaries. So you can actually measure this, and you can determine where you are now and where you want to be in the future, just like in my children's case. So their average is 75, and we want to make it 85. It's not subjective, and it's actionable. So once we have these two dots, then we can easily determine what needs to be done, how we will reach there, what resources we need, which stakeholders can help us to reach our objectives, and more importantly, we can keep track of our progress. So strategic plans, we spent a lot of time and energy to develop them, and then we forget about them for 3 years. And after 3 years, we do the same, we give the same effort. But you need to have a strategic plan that will accompany you through your journey in every stages of your growth or your operational efforts. You can also implement the same logic for different departments or different programs in your nonprofit organization. So the whole organization has a strategy, but the departments may have strategies too, like the food bank service of a community resource center. They may have their own evaluation, but the youth services or employment support services, they may have their own numbers and objectives. So this is the flexibility of using quantitative models. And imagine the easiness or the efficiency for the board members or the decision makers or the funders When they look at this chart, they will immediately know what they are trying to achieve in the following couple of years. So the second one is stakeholder analysis. So what we suggest to nonprofit organizations is to use fork, okay? Because your life as a nonprofit leader is like eating a spaghetti with bare hands. It's messy, you are too busy, extremely busy. No matter how dedicated, how passionate you are, or whatever your capacity is, you cannot control everything. You need some practical tools to make your life easy. So for stakeholder management, this is part of your strategic plan. We suggest a three-dimensional quantitative model. So what is the impact of the stakeholder on the horizontal axis? And the impact can be negative too, right? So we usually have positive stakeholders, but there may be some negative stakeholders as well. The vertical aspect is the interest level of the stakeholder. Let's say the city of Ottawa can be a very impactful stakeholder, but if they are not interested in your mandate, your score is low in terms of interest. And the size of the circle indicates the power of your stakeholder. So like City of Ottawa versus the federal government, right? So if you can get the support of federal government, that would be amazing for your nonprofit organization and for your strategic plan. And the third one that we suggest to use at strategic evaluation is about your impact. This is the currency in the nonprofit sector, not return of investment. So I know many people judge you based on your percentage of your administration expenses, but this is not fair. You do amazing things and you should be evaluated based on your impact, not based on your how much money you pay for your administrative stuff. So this is a quantitative tool. Let's think about an employment support service for an immigrant family, okay? So if they can help this family to find a job, it will change their whole life. It will solve almost all of their financial problems. So the individual level impact of employment support services is huge, right? But at the community level, their impact is relatively low, much lower than a food bank or shelter, because, I mean, what is the big deal? Somebody finds a job and number of jobs in the society is still the same. They don't change the community, but they change the lives of individuals. So community level impact, on the other hand, so we have over 1 million, yes, that's true, over 1 million eligible food bank users in Canada, and 40% of them use 3,000 food banks. Food banks are amazing, right? So we all appreciate what they are trying to do for our society. But do you know how much they contribute to a family income on a monthly basis? It's around $200 to $300. It's important. I'm not undervaluing this, but $200, $300 will not change the lives of individuals, right? But they will change the community. So the individual level impact is low, but the community level impact is high. And finally, the third level impact is target group level impact. So imagine you serve 500 families, but there are 5,000 families that can really benefit from your services. So you are only serving 10% of your potential target group. So this has to be measured, because this measurement is an important information for the decision makers and you. So if you measure your impact, so this is the summary, this is the graphical illustration of what I just explained. We have the individual level impact, community level impact, and the size of the circle indicates the target group level impact. And impact can be part of your strategic planning too. It should be part of your strategic planning. So in the future, you want to increase your community level impact, individual level impact, and your target group level impact. This means serving more people. So all of the models, they have to be efficient and simple. If they are too complicated, it means that you will not be able to use it. You will not be able to use it without expert assistance. So that's why what we value most. We want nonprofit organizations to gain skills to develop their own strategies without relying on consultants. And they are simple. So the second phase, okay, now we have done the strategic evaluation. We know where we want to go, but we have lots of options, right? So we have tons of alternatives. How are we going to prioritize this? We develop best model, which is the initials of 4 parameters: benefits, efforts, strategic importance, and time. So the 2 axes are the benefits and efforts, very similar to cost effectiveness analysis. And the 3rd dimension, the size of the circle, indicates the strategic importance. Okay, so let me give you an absurd example. So imagine Royal Canadian Navy is considering to buy a farm in Nova Scotia. Business-wise, is it a feasible decision? For businesses, maybe, but for the Navy, it's not a good decision because it's not aligned with its strategies, right? So this was an extreme example, but when you look at the practices in the nonprofit sector, you will see tons of examples of projects and programs that are not really related to the strategies of the organization. And finally, the 4th dimension that you need to consider while prioritizing your alternatives is the time. So it's color-coded. Red means it will take too much time, a lot of time, or green means you can get it done in a very short period. So if you look at the example, option A is strategically aligned with our objectives, has 75% benefits, and it requires relatively less efforts. So if, as a decision maker, your decision will be A by using this tool. So those tools are not replacing you, they are decision support systems. And it's also a powerful tool to communicate with your funders and your board members and your staff. Now we have the plan, we have we prioritize our actions. How are we going to implement it? So for every single stakeholder, what you need to do is to push everyone to the right side. If they have negative impact, you want to make them positive impact. Or if they are already in the positive impact side, you want to increase their interest in your cause. Okay, so you can repeat this measurements on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis, and then see how you are performing in terms of stakeholder engagement. In most of the scenarios, stakeholder management is in the heads of nonprofit leaders, but this is not sustainable, and it's a lot of work for the nonprofit leaders. So this tool can really simplify one of your tasks. Now, this is a very important, very practical metrics. You can easily develop something similar to your organization. So we have strategies on the top, generic strategies, strategy A, B, C, D, and we have ongoing programs, projects, and actions on the left side. Okay. Now, if any of the project is related to any of our strategy, we put an X there to indicate that it supports it. Okay. So it's a very simple evaluation. So what does this table tell us? If you pay attention, you can easily notice that project 3 has nothing to do with any of our strategies. In other words, we are wasting valuable resources of your nonprofit organization for nothing, right? It doesn't support any of your projects. Even if you have some extra fund, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good fit for your organization. unless it supports any of your strategies. Another critical information that you can derive from this table is this one, okay? So you have a strategy, but none of your projects or actions support that strategy. So please do this evaluation for your nonprofit organization. You will be surprised to see that so many projects are not related to your strategies, and so many of your strategies are not supported by your operations. And if you can easily repeat that once in a while to check that you have this perfectly matching vision, strategy, and actions alignment. So I want to share another quick video with you, which, well, those are funny examples, but they resemble what's happening in the nonprofit sector. So what he's doing is he's adding salt, but he's checking the same sample, right? So he's not adding any salt to the sample in the spoon. So he's measuring something wrong. And this is a very common mistake in the management. We try to change things without necessarily finding the right solution for the problem. So the next stage is performance management, and I will show you just one example what performance management will look like. I'm talking about dashboards, okay? Dashboards for at operational level, dashboards for executives, and dashboards for boards and stakeholders. Now we have this balance card, and imagine that we continue to repeat this measurement. Let's say we have a 5-year plan. We know where we want to be in the 5 years, but next year we repeat this measurement, and the following year we repeat that measurement, and then so we can keep track of our progress in time. We can redo the calculations for the previous years too, and continuously check whether we are on the right track or not. Instead of checking our strategic plans once in a 3-year or 5-year, we need to revisit our strategic plans and to make sure that we are applying them. So I mentioned that earlier, but I want to emphasize one more time. I call this 3 S's of strategic management: your strategies, your structure, and your systems. Let's say you are planning to become more digital. Digitalization is a popular strategy nowadays in the nonprofit sector. If you don't update your systems, if you don't update your structure, you cannot become a digital nonprofit organization or benefit from the digitalization. So 3 pillars of strategic management: structure, strategy, and system. Stakeholder management should be part of your strategic plan. Managing stakeholders, co-optation, getting them more involved in your cause is a powerful solution for the implementation of your strategies. I know you are busy, it's usually not a priority on the nonprofit leader's plate, but it's so important to reserve some of your time for stakeholder management. So, and by some of your time, I mean 80% of your time. So nonprofit leaders, if they are not spending 80% of their valuable time for stakeholder management, there must be something wrong. Either they are too busy with the operations, which is normally supposed to be done by your staff, or they don't have resources for stakeholder management. And we use valuable time of the executive director for secondary tasks. And impact management, this is so important. I know nonprofit organizations try to prove their impact indirectly. They say, we helped 5,000 people, but what was the impact? How did you change the lives of people? How did society change after your services? So this is really what funders want to hear, and this is really what society wants to see. So the model, the framework on the vertical aspect, it's all about your organization. It's all about your structure, your strategies, your operations, your system, your board, your governance. On the horizontal aspect, it's about your environment, your stakeholders, your beneficiaries, the rest of the society. So those are practical perspectives to consider when you apply the framework. Yes, so this concludes my presentation. I try to keep it as short as possible because I know do you know what the most valuable asset nonprofit leaders have? It's your time. We can replace almost everything, but we cannot replace your time. So I really try to be very careful when using your time. Now I'm ready for your questions and comments. Thank you
That was
very
excellent,
much.
Omer. Thank you. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. You can feel free to pop them in the chat or come off mute if you want to ask anything. I wanted to mention I love that the operations strategy matrix that you put together. That I think is a great way to visualize what impact your projects are having and to make sure that you're aligned with your strategy. That was really great.
I will send the presentation to you, Sandra. Albert is asking, and you feel free to share it with anyone. And this is just a summary of the solutions we offer. So again, if you
the video will also
yeah.
the video will be available. Sorry, on YouTube and on the event page as well. Robin, I think I saw had a question.
Yeah, hi. This was a really great presentation. Thank you. One question I have that as a sort of always a struggle for me with strategy development. I love the matrix you presented, but navigating the fact that there are, especially with operations teams, functions and tasks that you have to complete, you know, month in, month out, regardless of sort of what the specific strategy is. And so I'm just curious how you navigate that, like the aspects of the business that don't necessarily map exactly to this year's strategy, but have to happen, and how you navigate that in a way that doesn't lend itself towards sort of scope creep or having other people say, well, this team isn't like, I don't see how their projects are mapping up to the strategy. So that means I can do stuff that doesn't map to the strategy. Just curious for your take on that.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Robin. I think it's a brilliant question. Yeah, what we suggest by ViStA is alignment between vision, strategies, and actions. So if you don't have a strategy for your operations, then it means that you need to have a strategy. This means that you need a strategy component. Just like the opposite. You have a strategy, but you don't do anything about it. It's a big problem. But the opposite is also a problem. You do a lot of things, but it's not reflected in your strategic plan. That's a big problem too. So this matrix works both ways.
Omer? Oh,
yes.
Go ahead, Chuck.
I have a question. So have you written any book on this topic or anything like that? Or?
Oh, yes. Yes, George. Thank you for reminding. We have another framework for risk management for nonprofit organizations, very similar, practical, simple tools. It's published in United States. We wrote it with Professor Rick Nason from Dalhousie University. For strategic management framework, we wrote several articles and we are planning to write a book, but I mean, there are so many things I want to do, but so instead I prefer to organize workshops and record videos and publicize it so everyone can access to them.
So for nonprofit, you have written kind of articles or book?
Also a book, Risk Management for Nonprofit Organizations.
Is it available on Amazon or somewhere?
Yeah, it's on Amazon and several stores. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Do you have a link maybe you want to share in the chat, Omer?
Yeah. Yeah. 1 second, please. Yes, there you go.
Excellent, thank you. And George, if you didn't have any other questions, I think I saw Chuck waving his hand. Did you have a question, Chuck?
I see. Okay, this is a link. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, let me say awesome presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Within that short period of time, you have given me quite a bit of information and knowledge, so I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, the second thing that I have is, and it's probably a really simplistic question. When you mention about managing stakeholders, in my mind, because I'm working with a faith-based nonprofit, and I have a couple of other nonprofits that I'm working with, so I'm trying to compile a list of what would be the criteria for identifying who would be a stakeholder. But I wanted to hear your take on that. Do you have any words of wisdom along those lines that you might be able to share?
Yes, thank you for the question, Chuck. And it's a really important question for the nonprofit sector because we are aware of the stakeholders, but we don't see any need to manage them. So stakeholders and stakeholder management are two different concepts. The first thing that nonprofit organizations can do is to be aware of the need to manage their stakeholders. And then start with the identification of their stakeholders. Who are our stakeholders and how can they contribute to us? And then afterwards prioritize them and say which stakeholders are realistic, right? So federal government, I'm a too small nonprofit. Yeah, they are my stakeholder, but I cannot do anything about it. So City of Ottawa, yeah, that's a good stakeholder. Let's target this one and you prioritize 5, maybe 10 maximum stakeholders and get engaged with them. And in time, when you have a bigger capacity, then you make a list, bigger list, and you evaluate this regularly. You consult this with your team, you consult this with your board, and we rarely discuss I'm on the board of a couple of nonprofit organizations. We always talk about finance. We rarely discuss about the stakeholders. It's never on our agenda, but it's a big mistake because it's really what triggers funding, right? So it's everything is dependent to the stakeholder management.
Excellent, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Take silence as a no. Well, Omer, thank you again so much for sharing all that. And
thank you for
just to
having
echo
me
what
sometime.
Chuck said, that was a lot of great information in a short period of time. It was really well done. And Omer is going to be joining us in the new year for a few other events. They're not on the calendar yet, but they will be getting there shortly. So keep an eye out for them if you're not already subscribed to the notifications so that you can learn more.
Yeah,
Sandra,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Sandra, you said this is going to be available, the presentation for viewing, later viewing?
Yeah.
Is it on the, what do you call
yeah, it'll be on the same event link. So where you went to register for the event and where you went to get the link to watch this video,
okay.
It should show up there again as well.
Okay.
If it doesn't and you guys have any issues, I think you can contact me through the page, but my email, I'll put it in the chat as well.
Okay, that would be nice.
So if you don't get it or if you need something else and I've missed it or you can't find the video, just send me a message and I'll help you find that.
Omer, that was a great presentation. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, George.
Okay, that's good. Are you located in Canada or?
Yeah, I'm in Ottawa. I'm in Ottawa.
So you have your own consulting vectors group company?
Yes, that's
Okay.
true.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you all, and have a nice day, everyone.
Yes, if I can ask also,
Yes.
I know that the recording will be available. Thank you for that. Will the slides be made available? I'm not, Omar, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but I'd love to be able to do some semblance of this presentation to my leadership team.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's really
If
what I
you, yeah,
want.
Omar, if you want to
Yeah.
send me the slides or a link to the slides, if you have
Yeah.
them in
I will,
on
yes.
a drive somewhere, then I can send it out to and everyone who attended the event.
To participants, yeah, that would be nice. That would be
Yeah,
great.
perfect. Thank you.
So that we can, I have another group, Toastmasters group or some other groups that I belong to. I can disseminate this information if you don't mind to make your,
Please feel free.
to do more marketing, okay, promotion actually. I think
it's
very
also
important.
adding more value actually. And as
Yeah,
I said, we are a social enterprise. The more
Okay.
people can benefit, it's a win for us.
Okay, okay.
Perfect.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Have a nice holidays, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too. We'll
Bye.
see you again in the new year.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
See you again. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.